My sister ruined my relationship because she couldn't have the man she loved. I didn't stop him from choosing me. Bryce was my literature professor's teaching assistant, the kind of quiet, intelligent guy who wore sweaters with patches on the elbows and actually read poetry for fun. My sister had been obsessed with him for months, came home every day talking about how smart he was, how different. She'd asked him out 3 times. He'd rejected her every time, said he didn't date students. I knew all of this when I enrolled in his class. We met during office hours when I needed help understanding Faulkner. He explained stream of consciousness by comparing it to how thoughts interrupt dinner conversations, and something clicked. We started meeting for coffee, then lunch, then dinner. I didn't tell my sister. The semester ended, and technically I wasn't his student anymore. That's when things got serious between us. I knew I should have walked away, but I didn't. He chose me, and some selfish part of me wanted that. My sister found out when she saw us at a restaurant. She was sitting 2 tables away on a date of her own, and her face went white when Bryce leaned over to kiss me. The next morning, she texted Bryce from my phone, canceling our weekend plans with cold, cutting words. When I called him confused, he seemed distant, hurt. I showed him my sister had my phone. He didn't laugh it off this time. Then she created a fake dating profile using my photos. She messaged guys, flirted with them, arranged meetups. She sent screenshots to Bryce claiming I was cheating, that I'd been seeing multiple people behind his back. We worked through it. I got the profile taken down, but something had shifted in his eyes. A seed of doubt had been planted. She told my parents Bryce was 30, not 25, that he'd been fired from his last university for inappropriate conduct. Dad showed up at his apartment demanding answers. Bryce was horrified, trying to explain while my father threatened to call campus security. I had to show Dad Bryce's employment records, his background check. My father apologized, but Bryce started pulling away. Too much drama, he said. Then my sister found my journal, the one where I'd written about our first time together, the weekend at his cabin, the night he told me he wanted to build a life with me. She didn't just photocopy the pages. She altered them, changed dates to make it look like everything had happened while I was still his student, added entries I'd never written, making it seem like he'd pursued me inappropriately, promised me better grades, pressured me. She mailed it all to his department chair, with a note expressing concern about a teaching assistant abusing his position. The investigation took 2 weeks. Bryce had to prove the timeline, show that nothing happened until after the semester ended. He was cleared completely, but his reputation was shattered. Colleagues whispered. Students avoided his office hours. He stopped calling as much, started making excuses. When I confronted my sister, she smiled. That cold smile I'd seen since childhood, when she took my things, my friends, my achievements. You knew I loved him, she said. You knew, and you did it anyway. If I can't have him, neither can you. She was right. I had known. I moved out the next day, cut off all contact with my family. Bryce and I tried to salvage what we had, but the foundation was cracked. Every missed call made him wonder if it was another game. 4 months later, Mom called. My sister was in the hospital. She'd been in an accident, needed surgery, asking for me. I almost didn't go, but guilt pulled me there. She looked small in that hospital bed, machines beeping. When our parents left the room, she grabbed my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. I need to tell you something, she whispered, about Bryce, about why I really did it. I tried to pull away, but her fingers dug into my wrist. The IV line trembled with her movement. It wasn't just about him choosing you, she said. Her voice was different now, clearer, not the weak, injured tone she'd used when our parents were present. I need you to understand what I did. The words came out sharper than I intended. You destroyed my relation. You almost destroyed his career. She laughed. Actually laughed. It was a dry, bitter sound that made the hair on my arms stand up. You still don't get it. You never got it. A nurse walked past the room. I could hear the soft squeak of her shoes on the linoleum, the distant beep of another patient's monitor. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Everything felt too bright, too exposed. Then explain it to me, I said, because I'm done pretending I understand your psychotic behavior. She let go of my wrist and shifted in the bed, wincing. The hospital gown had slipped down her shoulder, exposing a bandage. Do you remember when we were kids? When you won the district spelling bee? That was 15 years ago. What does that have to do with anything? Everything. Her eyes locked onto mine. They were the same pale green as our mother's, but harder somehow. I'd been practicing for months. Every night after dinner, I'd study those word lists until my eyes burned. Mom would quiz me. Dad would test me on the hard ones. You didn't even want to compete. You just showed up because your teacher made you. I remembered that day, standing on stage in my best dress, the one Mom had bought for her, actually. My sister had been sick that week, stayed home from school with what we thought was the flu. I'd worn her dress because Mom said it would be bad luck to let it go to waste. I had mono, she continued. Did you know that? I was so sick I could barely stand, but I begged Mom and Dad to let me compete anyway. They said no, said I needed to rest. So you went instead, and you won. I didn't ask for that. No, you never ask for anything. Things just fall into your lap. Her voice was rising now. The scholarship I'd been working toward for 2 years, they gave it to you because your essay was more authentic. The lead in the school play, you got it because you seemed more natural. And Bryce, she paused. A tear rolled down her cheek, but her expression didn't change. I told you about him first. Remember? I came home after that first lecture and I couldn't stop talking about how he'd explained Hemingway, how he saw literature as living, breathing things. You listened, you nodded, you said he sounded interesting. I had said that. I remembered sitting on my bed, half listening while scrolling through my phone. She'd been so animated, so alive with possibility. 3 days later, you enrolled in his class. Dropped your creative writing elective to fit it into your schedule. When I asked why, you said you needed the literature credit anyway. I did need the credit, You had 4 other options that fit your schedule better. I'd checked. She closed her eyes. I watched you in class. Watched him notice you. Watched you stay after to ask questions I'd already asked him the week before. Watched you laugh at his jokes, lean in when he talked, touch his arm when you needed clarification. I wasn't trying to steal him from you. Yes, you were. Her eyes opened again. Maybe not consciously, but you saw something I wanted, and you took it. Like you always do. Like you always have. And the worst part is you never even realize you're doing it. The room felt smaller suddenly, warmer. I could smell the antiseptic, the faint scent of her perfume mixing with hospital soap. So you decided to destroy what we had, to ruin his career, to tear apart our family. I decided to make you feel what I've felt my entire life. She shifted again, her hand moving to her abdomen where the bandages were thickest. Do you want to know what really happened? Why I'm in this hospital? I didn't, but I couldn't leave either. Tell me. I was following him. Bryce. I'd been following him for weeks, actually. Ever since you moved out. I needed to see what you had that I didn't. What made him choose you instead of me? My stomach turned. You were stalking him. I was trying to understand. Her voice was steady, matter of fact. He has a routine. Leaves his apartment at 7, stops at the same coffee shop, goes to the university library, spends his lunch hour reading in that park near campus, the one with the stone benches and the oak trees. That's insane. Maybe. But I learned things. Like how he still goes to that coffee shop even though you're not there anymore. How he orders 2 cups every time out of habit probably. How he sits at your usual table and reads alone. I didn't want to hear this. Didn't want to imagine Bryce in that coffee shop, still caught in the patterns we'd created together. 3 days ago, I followed him to a bookstore downtown. He was there for over an hour, browsing the poetry section. When he left, I went in and asked the clerk what he'd bought. She showed me the book. It was the same one you'd mentioned wanting during one of your dates. I'd read your journal entries, remember? I knew everything. So what happened? I bought a copy. Drove to his apartment building. I was going to leave it at his door with a note. Something anonymous but meaningful. Something that would make him think of me instead of you. She took a breath. It rattled in her chest. But when I got there, he was outside. With someone. The machines beeped steadily. A cart rolled past the door. Someone laughed in the hallway. The sound jarringly normal. It was a woman. She was pretty. Dark hair. Tall. They were talking by his car. She touched his shoulder the way you used to. He smiled at her. Really smiled. The way he smiled at you in that restaurant. And I realized it didn't matter. Everything I'd done. The fake profile, the messages to his department, destroying your relationship. None of it mattered because he'd already moved on. Not back to me, just on. To someone new. Someone who wasn't either of us. She laughed again, but this time it broke into a cough. Her hand pressed against her ribs. I sat in my car and I watched them. They went inside together. I waited 4 hours. She didn't come back out. I started the car and I drove. I wasn't paying attention to where I was going, just driving. And then there was a truck. You drove into oncoming traffic? I drove until I forgot where I was. Her eyes met mine again. The doctor said I was lucky. 2 broken ribs, ruptured spleen, internal bleeding, lucky. They kept saying that word, lucky. The door opened. Mom stuck her head in. Everything okay? We're getting coffee from the cafeteria. Want anything? I shook my head. Mom disappeared again. Her footsteps faded down the hallway. I need you to tell me something, my sister said. And I need you to be honest. What? If you'd known how much I loved him, if you'd really understood, would you have stayed away? The question hung between us. I wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe I was better than that. But I remembered the first time Bryce had smiled at me, the way my heart had kicked when he'd leaned across the table to make a point about Fitzgerald, the electricity when our hands had brushed, reaching for the same book. I don't know, I said finally. Maybe not. She nodded slowly. At least you're honest now. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? That I'll give up everything because you saw him first? I want you to say you see me. Her voice cracked. That you've seen me this whole time. That I'm not just the shadow you cast. That I exist outside of your accomplishments and your relationships and your perfect life. My life isn't perfect. You made sure of that. No. I made sure you knew what it felt like to lose something, to watch someone take what's yours and not be able to stop it. She turned her head toward the window. The afternoon light cut across her face, highlighting the bruises, the hollow spaces under her eyes. The woman with Bryce? I looked her up. Her name is Victoria Hale. She's a visiting lecturer, specializes in postmodern literature, published 2 books, never married, no social media presence, completely unattainable and fascinating. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know he didn't replace you with someone lesser. He found someone you could never compete with, someone with the credentials and experience and mystery you'll never have. And that means I succeeded. She turned back to me. I broke you 2 apart. And even if he didn't come back to me, he's not with you either. That's enough. I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor. You're sick. You need help. I need you to feel what I've felt. And now you do. She smiled. That same cold smile from before. You can leave now. I've said what I needed to say. I walked to the door, stopped with my hand on the handle. For what it's worth, I did see you. Every time you practiced for something I won. Every time you worked twice as hard for half the recognition. I saw it all. And part of me hated that it came so easily to me when you struggled. Then why didn't you let me have him? Because I loved him too. The words felt heavy. True. Not because you wanted him. Not to prove anything. I just loved him. And I thought that was enough. I left before she could respond. Mom and Dad were walking back down the hallway, carrying cardboard cups of bad coffee. They asked if everything was okay. I told them it was fine. Told them I'd be back tomorrow. Lied through my teeth. I drove home to my apartment, the one I'd moved into after leaving our parents' house. It was small. A studio with barely enough room for a bed and a desk and a tiny kitchen. But it was mine. The walls were blank still. I hadn't had the energy to decorate. The only personal item was a photo on my nightstand, me and Bryce at his cabin. We were sitting on the dock, his arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember anymore. I picked up the frame, studied our faces. We looked happy, young, untouched by everything that came after. I wondered if he kept any photos of us, if Victoria Hale had seen them yet, if he'd told her about the girl who'd almost ruined his career, the girl whose sister had nearly destroyed everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Bryce. First one in 6 weeks. Heard about your sister. Hope she's okay. Let me know if you need anything. Polite. Distant. The kind of message you send to an acquaintance, not someone you'd once planned a future with. I typed back, thank you, and then deleted it. Tried she'll be fine and deleted that too. Finally settled on, appreciate it, and hit send. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Can we talk? Coffee tomorrow? My heart did that stupid kick again. The same one from the first time he'd smiled at me. I typed yes before I could think better of it. We met at a different coffee shop, not our usual place. This one was across town, brighter, louder, less intimate. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table by the window. He'd cut his hair shorter, lost the sweater with elbow patches. He looked older somehow, more tired. Thanks for meeting me, he said as I sat down. Of course. How is she? Your sister? She'll survive. Broken ribs, some internal damage. They're keeping her a few more days. He nodded, stirred his coffee even though he hadn't added anything to it. I've been thinking about everything that happened. The investigation, the fake profiles, all of it. Bryce, you don't have to. I need to say this. He looked up. His eyes were the same warm brown I remembered, but there was something different in them now, a guardedness that hadn't been there before. I was angry at you for a long time, angry that your sister did those things, angry that you didn't stop her sooner, angry that loving you cost me so much. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix my reputation. It doesn't undo the whispers in the department. It doesn't make my colleagues trust me again. He paused. I got an offer from another university, across the country. Better position, more money, I'm taking it. Oh, I wanted to tell you in person, and I wanted to tell you that I don't hate you. I thought I did for a while. But you were just caught between me and something you couldn't control. She told me she was following you, before the accident. She knew about Victoria. His jaw tightened. Victoria is a colleague. That's all. She spent 4 hours at your apartment. We were working on a research proposal. Nothing happened. I believed him, or maybe I wanted to believe him. It doesn't matter anyway. You're leaving. Come with me. The words hung in the air between us. Outside, a bus hissed to a stop. Someone honked. The espresso machine screamed. What? Come with me. Fresh start. New city. No family drama, no history. Just us. I wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe we could pack up everything that had happened and leave it behind like old furniture. But I knew better. Your sister destroyed us because she couldn't have what she wanted. Don't let her win by destroying yourself too. What if I want you to come? Then, you're not thinking clearly. I reached across the table, touched his hand. He didn't pull away. What we had was real, but it was also built on secrets and guilt and everything we didn't say. Starting over somewhere else won't change that. So this is it? We just give up? We already gave up months ago. We've just been too stubborn to admit it. I pulled my hand back. Go to your new university. Build the career you deserve. Meet someone who doesn't come with a family that tried to ruin you. Be happy. And what about you? I'll figure it out. He stood up. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me goodbye, but he just squeezed my shoulder. Take care of yourself. You too. I watched him walk out, watched him get into his car, watched him drive away. Then I sat there for another hour, nursing cold coffee, trying to figure out when everything had gone so wrong. My phone buzzed. Mom again. Your sister wants to see you. Says it's important. I didn't go back to the hospital that day. Or the next. I went to work. I taught my classes. English literature at a local community college. Nothing as prestigious as what Bryce had been working toward, but it was mine. My students were mostly adults returning to school. Single parents, people working 2 jobs, immigrants learning English. They didn't care about my credentials. They cared about whether I showed up and whether I made the material accessible. On the 3rd day, Dad called. Your sister's being discharged tomorrow. Doctor says she needs someone to stay with her for a few weeks. Help with medications. Make sure she doesn't overdo it. She can stay with you and Mom. She asked for you specifically. Said you're the only one who understands. Understands what? That she's manipulative and vindictive? She's your sister. She nearly died because she drove into traffic after stalking my ex-boyfriend. Silence on the other end. Then, what are you talking about? Ask her. Ask her what she was really doing that night. I hung up, turned off my phone, spent the rest of the day grading papers and pretending my life wasn't falling apart. But guilt is a persistent thing. It doesn't care about logic or self-preservation. It just sits in your chest like a stone, getting heavier with each breath. I went to the hospital the next morning. My sister was dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed. She looked smaller in regular clothes, fragile. Mom was packing up the flowers and cards that had accumulated over the past few days. You came, my sister said. Don't sound so surprised. I told them what I was really doing that night, about following Bryce, about everything. Mom's hand stilled on a vase of roses. Sweetheart, you should rest. You've been through a lot. I'm tired of resting. I'm tired of pretending. She looked at me. I told them I need to see someone, a therapist, someone who specializes in obsessive behaviors. That's good. Is it? She laughed bitterly. Because I still want him, even knowing he'll never want me, even after everything I did. I close my eyes and I see him. I imagine conversations we'll never have. I rewrite history in my head where he chose me instead, where I was the one in that restaurant, where I was the one at his cabin. And I know it's sick. I know it's wrong. But I can't stop. Mom's face had gone pale. Dad appeared in the doorway holding a wheelchair. Hospital policy, he explained. They wheel you out even if you can walk. I can't come stay with you, I said to my sister. I can't be your caretaker or your confidant or your reminder of everything you've lost. I'm sorry, but I just can't. I know. She eased into the wheelchair with a wince. But I needed to tell you something before you disappear completely. About why I grabbed that journal. About why I knew exactly where to look. I don't want to hear this. You kept it under your mattress. Same place you kept your diary when we were kids. Same place you hid your report cards and your college acceptance letters. Same place you thought was secret but I'd known about since I was 10. Mom pushed the wheelchair toward the door. I followed, keeping my distance. I used to read your diary, my sister continued. Every entry, every secret, every hope and fear and dream. I knew who you liked before you knew. I knew what you wanted before you told anyone, and I used all of it. Used it how? Do you remember Austin Bradford? 8th grade? You wrote pages about him, how he smiled at you in math class, how you practiced what you'd say if he asked you to the dance. You were so excited. I remembered. Austin had been my first real crush. Curly hair, easy laugh. He'd never asked me to the dance. I told him you had a boyfriend, showed him a picture of some random guy and said you'd been dating him for months. He believed me. Asked Penny Jimenez instead. The hallway stretched ahead of us. Fluorescent lights, faded paintings of flowers. A cart full of medications rattled past. And Colin Spence? Junior year? You wrote that you were going to tell him how you felt after the basketball game. I told him you thought he was weird, that you'd been making fun of him behind his back. He stopped talking to you completely. Mom kept pushing the wheelchair. Her knuckles were white on the handles. Dad walked ahead, his shoulders tight. I poisoned every chance you had at happiness that I could reach, every relationship, every opportunity, every moment of joy. Because if I couldn't have those things, why should you? We reached the lobby. Dad went to get the car. Mom stood frozen, staring at the back of my sister's head like she'd never seen her before. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I want you to know it was never about Bryce. He was just the biggest, most important thing I could take from you, the thing that would hurt the most. She turned in the wheelchair, looked up at me, and I want you to know I'd do it again, all of it. Because hating you is the only thing that makes me feel alive. Dad's car pulled up outside. Mom pushed the wheelchair through the automatic doors. The cold air hit my face. I stood there watching them load my sister into the back seat, watching Dad carefully adjust her seatbelt, watching Mom fuss with pillows. They drove away without saying goodbye. I called my landlord that afternoon, asked if the lease was transferable. He said yes, but I'd lose my deposit. I didn't care. I spent the next week packing, sold most of my furniture, donated clothes I'd had since high school, threw away photos and memorabilia and anything that tied me to this city. 2 weeks later, I was in Portland. No job lined up, no apartment secured, just a hotel room and a few boxes and a desperate need to be somewhere my sister had never been. I found work at a bookstore, small independent place that smelled like coffee and old paper. The owner was a woman in her 60s named Ruth, who asked no questions about my past or my credentials. She just needed someone who loved books and would show up on time. I rented a room in a house with 3 other people, 2 graduate students and a guy who worked nights at a hospital. We barely saw each other. It was perfect. For 6 months, I was nobody. Just another face in Powell's city of books. Just another person riding the MAX train. Just another transplant trying to figure out why everyone kept telling them the rain wasn't that bad. Then one afternoon, Bryce walked into the bookstore. I saw him before he saw me. He was browsing the poetry section, running his fingers along the spines the way he always had. My first instinct was to hide, to duck behind the counter or disappear into the back room, but I was tired of hiding. Bryce. He turned. His face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Surprise. Confusion. Something that might have been happiness. What are you doing here? I work here. What are you doing here? I live here. Moved here 8 months ago for the university position. I thought you were still in... I left. Right after you did. We stared at each other across the poetry section. David White and Mary Oliver and Wendell Berry watching our reunion. Coffee? He asked finally. I'm working. After your shift? I should have said no. Should have maintained the distance I'd spent months building. But I nodded. We went to a cafe a few blocks from the bookstore. It was raining. Of course it was raining. We sat by the window and watched people hurry past with umbrellas. I tried to find you, he said. After you left, your parents wouldn't tell me where you'd gone. Your phone was disconnected. It was like you vanished. I needed to. Because of your sister? Because of everything. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup. It burned. She told me things, before I left, about how she'd sabotaged my life for years, since we were kids. It wasn't just you. It was everything. Jesus. Yeah. I took a breath. So I ran. Came here, started over, and it's been good. Quiet. Anonymous. Do you miss it? Your family? Your old life? Sometimes. Mostly I miss who I thought I was before I knew the truth. I looked at him. Really looked at him. He'd grown a beard. It suited him. What about you? How's the new position? Good. Better than good, actually. The department is supportive. Students are engaged. I'm working on a book about narrative structure in contemporary literature. He smiled. No drama. No investigations. Just work. And Victoria is married to the chair of the English department and has 3 kids. We collaborate sometimes, but that's it. He reached across the table, took my hand. I told you nothing happened. I know. I'm sorry I doubted you. Your sister did a number on both of us. Yeah, she did. We sat there for a while, not talking, just existing in the same space. It felt familiar and strange all at once. Like coming home to a house that had been remodeled while you were away. Can I see you again? He asked. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because we already tried this. We already failed. We failed because your sister was actively destroying us. She's not here now. No, but the damage is. Every time I look at you, I think about what she did, what I did, what we cost you. I pulled my hand back. I can't be the person who reminds you of the worst time in your life. You weren't the worst time. The aftermath was. The investigation. The whispers. But you? What we had before everything went to hell? That was the best time. Past tense. Doesn't have to be. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to think we could rewind to that first conversation about Faulkner. To coffee dates and late-night discussions about literature. To his cabin and the dock and laughter I could barely remember. But I knew better now. Knew that some things, once broken, don't fit back together the same way. I need time, I said, to figure out who I am without my sister's shadow, without the guilt, without you. How much time? I don't know. Maybe a lot. Maybe forever. He nodded slowly. Can I at least have your number? In case you change your mind? I wrote it on a napkin, watched him fold it carefully and put it in his wallet. Then I stood up. I have to go. My shift starts again in 20 minutes. Will you be okay? Eventually. I walked back to the bookstore through the rain, didn't use an umbrella, just let the water soak through my jacket and my hair and my skin. By the time I got back, I was drenched and shivering. Ruth took one look at me and handed me a towel. Boy trouble? She asked. Old boy trouble. The worst kind. She poured me tea from the pot she kept behind the counter. You want to talk about it? Not really. Good. Talking's overrated. She went back to cataloging new arrivals. But if you change your mind, I'm here. Been through 3 divorces and more bad relationships than I can count. Could write a book on what not to do. Maybe you should. Maybe I will. That night, lying in bed in my rented room, I thought about calling my sister, just to see if she was okay, if the therapy was helping, if she still hated me, but I didn't, because some wounds need distance to heal. Some relationships need to stay broken. 3 months passed. I didn't hear from Bryce. Didn't hear from my family either. I worked at the bookstore, took classes at a community college, started writing again, something I hadn't done since my sister found my journal. Then one morning, Ruth handed me an envelope. This came for you yesterday. Forgot to give it to you before you left. It was from my mother. Inside was a letter and a photo. The letter was short. Your sister is in a facility now. Residential treatment for obsessive disorders. She'll be there for 6 months minimum. Your father and I are attending family therapy. The therapist says we enabled her behavior, that we compared you to too much, made her feel invisible. We're trying to understand, trying to fix what we broke. I don't know if you'll ever forgive us, or her, or yourself, but I needed you to know we're trying. The photo is from when you were both 5, before the competitions, before the comparisons, before everything went wrong. You were best friends once. Maybe you can't be again, but I wanted you to remember that it wasn't always like this. The photo showed 2 little girls in matching dresses. They had their arms around each other, smiling at the camera with gap-toothed grins. I barely recognized us. I put the letter and photo in a drawer. Didn't know what else to do with them. Another month passed. Spring was starting to show itself in Portland. Cherry blossoms and longer days, and people actually smiling on the street. Bryce called. I'm not trying to pressure you, he said without preamble. I just wanted to tell you that I got my book contract. It's being published next year. And I wanted you to know because you were there when I first started thinking about it. When it was just an idea I rambled about over coffee. That's amazing. Congratulations. Thanks. Pause. I'm also seeing someone. Victoria's not married, by the way. I lied about that. She is seeing someone else, but that's beside the point. The person I'm seeing is named Jordan. Met them at a faculty mixer. They're good, normal, no drama. I thought you should know. Why? Because I waited 3 months for you to call, to show up at my office or the bookstore or anywhere, and you didn't. So I'm moving on. Really moving on this time. Good. You should. But I need you to know something first. His voice changed, softer, more raw. What we had was real. I loved you. Past tense, present tense, whatever. It was real and it was good and your sister didn't ruin it. We did. By not fighting harder for it. By letting her win. She didn't win, Bryce. Nobody won. Then what was the point of all of it? I don't know. Maybe there wasn't one. Maybe sometimes things just fall apart and there's no meaning or lesson or silver lining. They just end. That's depressing. It's honest. He laughed. It sounded sad. I miss your honesty. Jordan's great, but they're always trying to see the positive. Sometimes I just want someone to tell me things suck. Things suck. Thanks. I needed that. Another pause. Take care of yourself, okay? And if you ever want to talk or grab coffee or just exist in the same space for a while, I'm here. No expectations. No pressure. Just here. Okay. Okay. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, staring at his name on the screen. Then I deleted his number. Not out of anger or spite, just out of necessity. Because holding on to him was holding on to everything that came with him, and I needed to let it go. Summer came. I got promoted to assistant manager at the bookstore, enrolled full-time at Portland State, started dating someone I met in my American literature class. His name was Felix. He was studying engineering and had no interest in poetry or teaching or anything remotely related to my past. It was refreshing, uncomplicated. Then 6 months after the letter, my mom called. Your sister's being released next week. She wants to see you. No, please. She's different now. The treatment helped. She's on medication, seeing a therapist twice a week. She's trying. Good for her. She wrote you a letter. Can I read it to you? Mom, please, just listen. I didn't say yes, but I didn't hang up either. Dear sister, Mom read. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to understand. I just need you to know that I'm getting help, that I'm trying to understand why I am the way I am, why I destroyed the people I loved most. The therapist says it's complicated, trauma and comparison and learned behaviors and chemical imbalances. But the truth is simpler. I was jealous. Jealous of your ease, your naturalness, your ability to walk through the world without trying so hard. And instead of working on myself, I tried to tear you down. I'm sorry. Not because sorry fixes anything, but because it's true. I ruined your relationship. I ruined your trust. I ruined years of your life, and I have to live with that. You don't have to forgive me. You don't have to see me or talk to me or acknowledge I exist. But I needed you to know I'm trying to be better. Not for you, for me, because I'm tired of being the villain in my own story. Your sister. Mom finished reading. I could hear her breathing on the other end, waiting. Thank you for reading it, I said finally. Will you see her? I don't know. Maybe eventually. But not now. I'm not ready. When will you be ready? I don't know that either. Maybe never. She's your sister. She's also the person who tried to destroy my life. Those two things can both be true. I softened my voice. I'm glad she's getting help. Really, I am. But I need to protect myself too. And right now, that means keeping distance. Mom sighed. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. How are you and Dad? We're okay. Therapy is hard. Realizing how much we contributed to this mess is harder, but we're trying. That's good. We miss you. I miss you too. Will you come visit sometime? When you're ready? Maybe. No promises. No promises, she echoed. We hung up. I told Felix about the call later that night. He listened without judgment, then said, "Sounds complicated." It is. Do you want to see her? Your sister? Part of me does. The part that remembers we were friends once, that we used to build blanket forts and make up stories and protect each other from thunderstorms. I leaned against him, but the other part remembers everything she did, everything she destroyed, and I don't know if I can forgive that. You don't have to decide right now. No, but I'll have to decide eventually. Why? Because she's my sister. Because she's getting help. Because holding on to anger is exhausting. So is forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it. He was right. But that didn't make the decision any easier. A year passed. I graduated with my bachelor's degree, got accepted into a master's program for library science. Felix and I moved in together, a small apartment near campus with a view of Mount Hood on clear days. Life was good, quiet, the kind of good that comes from building something slowly, carefully, with someone who doesn't require dramatic gestures or grand explanations. Then Bryce's book came out. I saw it in the bookstore. Ruth had placed it prominently on the new releases table. The Fractured Narrative, How Contemporary Literature Mirrors Modern Trauma. I picked it up, read the back cover. There was his photo, looking professorial and accomplished. The acknowledgments mentioned Jordan, his parents, his colleagues. No mention of me, which was fair. I hadn't been part of his life when he'd written it, but the dedication made me pause. For those who taught me that love and literature are both acts of faith, and for those who showed me when to hold on and when to let go. I bought a copy, read it over the course of a week. It was good, really good. His analysis was sharp, his writing clear, his arguments compelling. There were sections that felt personal, places where I could see echoes of our conversations, but it was entirely his own. I wrote him an email. I read your book. It's excellent. You should be proud. I hope Jordan knows how lucky they are. And I hope you're happy, really happy, the kind of happy that doesn't require looking back. He responded 2 days later. Thank you. That means more than you know. Jordan and I got engaged last month. The wedding is in spring. I thought about inviting you, but wasn't sure if that would be weird or inappropriate or just painful for everyone involved. So I'm telling you instead. I hope that's okay. I hope you're happy too. Really happy. The kind of happy you deserve. I cried reading it. Not because I still loved him, but because I mourned what we'd been. What we might have been if circumstances had been different. If my sister had been different. If I had been different. Felix found me on the couch, book in hand, tears on my face. You okay? Yeah, just processing. The ex? Getting married. How do you feel about that? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Relieved, sad, happy for him. Worried I'll never feel that way about anyone again. Grateful that I survived it. All of the above. You'll feel that way again. How do you know? Because you're capable of it. Just because it didn't work with him doesn't mean you're broken. My sister would disagree. Your sister isn't here, and she doesn't get to define your story anymore. He was right. But old patterns die hard. 2 years after I left, I went back home, not to visit my sister, to visit my parents, to see if enough time had passed that we could rebuild something. Mom answered the door. She'd aged, more gray in her hair, more lines around her eyes, but she smiled when she saw me, really smiled. You came. I came. She hugged me. I let her. Dad was in the kitchen making coffee. He looked older too, thinner, more worn. It's good to see you, kiddo. You too, Dad. We sat in the living room, the same furniture, the same photos on the walls, but something felt different. Lighter, maybe. Your sister's doing well, Mom said carefully. She got a job at a nonprofit, volunteers at an animal shelter on weekends. She's been dating someone for about 6 months. That's good. She asks about you sometimes, wonders how you're doing, if you're happy. Tell her I am. You could tell her yourself. She lives about 20 minutes from here. We could call her, set up a meeting. I'm not ready for that. Will you ever be? I don't know. Maybe. But not today. Mom nodded. She didn't push. Tell us about your life, your program, this Felix person you mentioned on the phone. So I did. I told them about Portland and school and the bookstore and Felix, about building a life that was entirely mine, about learning to exist without looking over my shoulder. They listened, really listened. And for the first time in years, I felt seen by them, not as the successful daughter or the one who got things easily, just as myself. I'm proud of you, Dad said when I finished, for getting out, for starting over, for choosing yourself. I should have done it sooner. You did it when you were ready. That's what matters. I stayed for 3 days. We went to dinner, walked through my old neighborhood, looked at photo albums. There were pictures of my sister and me as kids before everything went wrong. We looked happy, uncomplicated. Do you think we can ever get back there? I asked Mom, pointing at a photo of us building a sandcastle at the beach. No, but you can build something new, something that accounts for who you both are now. What if who we are now can't coexist? Then you don't force it. You accept that some relationships have seasons, and this season is distance. The night before I left, I drove past my sister's apartment. I didn't stop, didn't get out, just sat in my car across the street and looked at the lit windows on the 3rd floor. I wondered what she was doing, if she was happy, if she still thought about Bryce, if she still thought about me. My phone buzzed. Felix, you okay? Yeah, just saying goodbye. To your parents? To everything. I drove back to my parents' house, packed my bag, left early the next morning before they woke up, left a note thanking them for the visit, for trying, for being willing to grow. On the drive back to Portland, I called Ruth. I need more hours at the bookstore, and I need a project, something to focus on. What kind of project? A book club, for people dealing with family trauma. We'll read literature that addresses complicated relationships, discuss how stories help us process pain, create community around healing. That's ambitious. I know, but I need to do something with everything I've learned, everything I've survived. Okay, let's do it. We started the book club 3 months later. It met every Tuesday night. 8 people showed up the first week, 15 the next. By month 3, we had a waiting list. We read The Glass Castle and Educated and Running with Scissors. We talked about parents who failed us, siblings who hurt us, families that fractured. We shared stories in that bookstore's back room, stories of abuse and neglect and betrayal and survival. Stories that would never make it into bestsellers but mattered just as much. One night, a woman named Delilah shared her story. Her brother had stolen her identity, ruined her credit, nearly destroyed her life. She'd cut him off completely, hadn't spoken to him in 5 years. Do you regret it? Someone asked. Every day, she said. But I'd do it again. Because protecting myself matters more than maintaining a relationship with someone who keeps hurting me. I thought about my sister, about the letter she'd written, about the distance I'd maintained. After the meeting, I called Mom. I want her number. My sister's number. Really? I don't know if I'm ready to see her, but maybe I can start with a message. Something small. Mom gave me the number. I sat with it for 3 days, typed and deleted a dozen messages, finally settled on something simple. Hi, it's me. Mom said you're doing well. I'm glad. I'm doing well too. I'm not ready to see you yet. Maybe not for a long time, but I wanted you to know I don't hate you anymore. I don't forgive you either. I'm somewhere in between, working on figuring out where exactly. Take care of yourself. She responded an hour later. Thank you for reaching out. I understand you're not ready. I might never be forgiven, and I've accepted that. I'm just trying to be someone I can live with, someone who does less harm. I hope you're happy, really happy. You deserve that, even if I spent years trying to take it from you. We didn't message again after that, but knowing she'd received it, read it, understood it, that was enough for now. Felix and I got married the following spring. Small ceremony in Powell's City of Books, surrounded by friends and literature. Ruth officiated. We wrote our own vows. Mine included a line about choosing joy even when the world conspires toward pain. His included a promise to never make me feel invisible. My parents came. My sister didn't. Mom said she'd wanted to, but understood why I hadn't invited her. She said to tell you congratulations, that she hopes you're happy, that she hopes he's worthy of you. Tell her thank you. You could tell her yourself. Someday. Maybe. But not today. Bryce sent a card. Him and Jordan had a baby on the way. He'd gotten tenure. Life was good. He was happy. He hoped I was too. I was. 3 years into my marriage, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? It's me. My sister's voice. Older, steadier. I know I'm not supposed to call. Mom said you needed space. But I'm getting married next month and I wanted to tell you myself before you heard it from someone else. Oh, congratulations. Thank you. Pause. I'm not inviting you. I know that sounds harsh, but I don't want you there out of obligation. I don't want awkward family dynamics on what should be a happy day. But I wanted you to know that I'm building a life. A good one. One that doesn't revolve around destroying yours. I'm glad. Are you? Glad, I mean. Or are you just being polite? I thought about it. Both. I'm glad you're happy. And I'm being polite because I don't know how to be anything else with you. That's fair. She took a breath. His name is Cameron. He's a teacher. Elementary school. He knows everything about what I did. What I am. And he loves me anyway. Can you believe that? I can, actually. I wake up every day terrified I'll revert. That I'll see something he has or something he wants and I'll try to take it. But so far, I haven't. So far, I'm just happy for him. With him. That's growth. It's exhausting. She laughed. It sounded genuine. Being a better person takes so much work. I don't know how you made it look easy. It wasn't easy. I just hid the hard parts better. Yeah, well, you were always good at that. We sat in silence for a moment. Not comfortable exactly, but not hostile either. I should go, she said finally. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. Again. I know I said it before, but I mean it more now. I understand what I took from you. What I can never give back. And I'm sorry. I know you are. Does that make a difference? Me being sorry? It makes some difference. Not enough to fix everything, but some. That's all I can ask for. Another pause. I hope you're happy. I mean it this time. No caveats, no secret wishes that it falls apart. I genuinely hope your life is everything you wanted. It's getting there. Good. That's good. She cleared her throat. Goodbye. Maybe not forever, but for now. Goodbye. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone. Felix came into the room. Your sister? Yeah. How was it? Weird? Sad? Hopeful? I don't know. He sat beside me. You'll figure it out. When? When you're ready. 5 years after I left my hometown, I published my first academic article, Narrative Trauma and Familial Betrayal in Contemporary Memoir. It explored how writers process family dysfunction through literature, how they transform pain into story, how they survive by telling the truth. Bryce emailed me congratulations. Jordan did too. They had 2 kids now. Still lived in Portland, but in a different neighborhood. We'd run into each other occasionally at conferences or bookstore events. It was cordial, pleasant even. The past had faded into something manageable. My sister sent me a copy of the article with notes in the margins. She'd highlighted sections that resonated, made comments that showed she understood what I was really writing about. At the end, she'd written, "You're a better writer than I ever gave you credit for. This is honest and painful and important. Thank you for telling our story, even if you didn't name me directly." I recognized myself in every page, and for the first time, I didn't hate what I saw reflected back. Just felt sad for who I was, who I wasted so much time being. I'm proud of you. Your sister. I kept that copy in my desk drawer. Didn't respond to it, but didn't throw it away either. On my 35th birthday, Mom called. Your sister had a baby, a girl. She named her Hope. That's a big name to live up to. She said it's a reminder that even people who've done terrible things can create something beautiful, something unmarred by their past. How very philosophical of her. She wants to know if you'd like to meet her, your niece. I looked at Felix. He was in the kitchen making breakfast. We'd bought a house the year before. Small place with a yard for the dog we'd adopted. Life was settled. Good. Uncomplicated in the best way. Can I think about it? Of course. I thought about it for 3 months. Talked to my therapist about it. Talked to Felix about it. Talked to the book club about it. Everyone said the same thing. Only you can decide what you're capable of forgiving. In the end, I agreed to meet my niece. Just the baby. Not my sister. Not yet. Mom brought her to Portland. We met at a park. Neutral territory. The baby was 6 months old, chubby and happy. She had my sister's eyes, my mother's smile. No trace yet of the poison that had run through our family for generations. She's beautiful, I said. She is. Mom adjusted the baby in her arms. Your sister's a good mother. Better than I was. She's very conscious of not making the same mistakes, not comparing, not pitting siblings against each other. She's only having one child to avoid it entirely. That's smart. It's sad that she had to make that choice, that we taught her that was necessary. Mom handed me the baby. I held her carefully. She grabbed my finger, squeezed with surprising strength, looked at me with curious eyes. "Hi, Hope," I whispered. "I'm your aunt, the one who's been missing. But I'm here now, sort of." The baby gurgled. Mom smiled. "She wants to see you, you know, your sister. Not to force a relationship. Just to talk, adult to adult. No expectations. I don't know if I'm ready. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be willing to try." 6 months later, on a cold December afternoon, I met my sister at a coffee shop halfway between Portland and our hometown. Neutral territory again. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window. She'd cut her hair short, lost weight, looked older but somehow younger too, less burdened. "Hi," she said as I sat down. "Hi. Thank you for coming. Thank you for not making this weird." She laughed. It sounded real. "I can't promise I won't make it weird, but I'll try." We ordered coffee, sat in silence for a moment. Outside, it started to snow. Rare for December this far west. "I saw your article," she said. "The one about narrative trauma." "Yeah, Mom mentioned you'd read it. It was good, painful, but good." She traced the rim of her. "I saw myself, even though you didn't name." "Even though you changed details. I knew. I didn't write it to hurt you. I know. You wrote it to understand, to process. That's what you do. You turn pain into meaning." She looked at me. "I just destroyed things. You created. That's the difference between us. One of many differences." "Yeah," she smiled sadly. "You know what's funny? I spent so many years hating you for having what I wanted, for being who I couldn't be. And now I'm trying to figure out who I am when I'm not defined by that hatred. It's harder than you'd think. I imagine it is. Cameron helps. And Hope. Having a daughter made me understand what Mom must have felt, watching us destroy each other, knowing she'd contributed to it. It's terrifying and humbling." She paused. "I don't want Hope to grow up the way we did, always measuring herself against some impossible standard, always feeling less than. Then don't let her. I'm trying. But what if I mess up? What if, despite my best efforts, I damage her the way I was damaged, the way I damaged you? Then she'll have to figure out how to survive you, the way I did." She flinched. "That's fair. I'm not trying to be cruel, just honest." "I know. That's what I asked for." She took a sip of coffee. "I don't expect you to forgive me, or to have a relationship with me, but I needed to sit across from you and tell you face to face that I'm sorry, that I understand what I did, that if I could take it back, I would." "Would you? Really?" "Yes. Even knowing that hating me gave your life purpose? Even knowing you'd have to figure out who you are without it?" She thought about it. Really thought about it. "Yes. Because hating you hurt me more than it hurt you. It poisoned everything. Made me incapable of joy. I'd take it back just to know what it's like to be happy without condition. To love someone without resentment. To exist without that constant burning in my chest. And now? Now I have moments of peace. Brief ones. Where I look at my daughter or my husband and I feel something that isn't rage or jealousy or bitterness. It's still fragile. Still new. But it's there. I'm glad. Are you really glad? Or are you just being polite again? I considered lying, but we'd come too far for that. I'm mostly glad. There's still a part of me that wants you to hurt the way I hurt, but it's smaller now, more manageable. And I think one day it might disappear entirely. That's more than I deserve. Probably. We sat there for another hour, talking about safe things, her job at the nonprofit, my teaching, Felix and Cameron, Hope and her tiny personality already emerging. We didn't talk about Bryce. Didn't talk about everything she'd destroyed. Didn't dig into the past beyond acknowledging it existed. When we said goodbye, she hugged me. I let her. It felt strange, foreign, but not entirely wrong. Can we do this again? She asked. Maybe in a few months? Maybe. I'll take maybe. I drove back to Portland through the snow. Felix was waiting up when I got home. How was it? Complicated, but okay. Do you think you'll see her again? I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me wants to maintain the distance I've built. Both parts feel valid. They are valid. You're allowed to be complicated about this. I'm tired of being complicated about this. Then don't be. Do what feels right in the moment and stop trying to plan the perfect response. He was right, as usual. I didn't see my sister again for another year. We texted occasionally, brief updates, photos of Hope. She sent me a picture on my birthday, wished me happiness. I did the same for her. It wasn't forgiveness, not quite, but it was movement. Forward or backward, I couldn't quite tell, but movement nonetheless. 10 years after everything fell apart, I got an email from Bryce. He was organizing a conference on contemporary literature and trauma. Would I be interested in presenting my research? I said yes. The conference was in Seattle. 2 days of panels and presentations and networking. Bryce's third book had just come out. He was being interviewed by NPR, had become something of an authority in the field. I was proud of him, and grateful that his success had nothing to do with me. We got coffee on the last day of the conference. Jordan was there too. They were warm and funny and utterly normal. 3 academics discussing theory and teaching and the exhausting nature of publication. I read your work, Jordan said. The piece on family trauma. It's brilliant. Thank you. Bryce mentioned you two dated, back before I met him. We did. I hope this isn't weird. Meeting me. It's a little weird, I admitted. But also okay. Good. They smiled. He speaks highly of you. Says you taught him a lot about literature and life. I think it was mutual. Bryce squeezed Jordan's hand. It was definitely mutual. But I'm glad you're doing well. Really well. You deserve it after everything you went through. We both deserve it. Yeah, we do. We said goodbye outside the convention center. A real goodbye this time. Not the painful, unfinished ones from before. Just a simple acknowledgement that we'd been important to each other once and had moved beyond it into separate, good lives. On the flight home, I wrote my sister an email. I saw Bryce last week. He's happy, successful, has a partner who clearly loves him. And I felt nothing. No regret, no longing, no anger at you for what you took from me. Just gladness that he found what he was looking for. Maybe that's growth. Maybe that's just time. Either way, I thought you should know. Not to hurt you, but to tell you that the shadow of what happened isn't as long as it used to be. We're both walking in more sunlight now. She responded, thank you for telling me. I think about him sometimes. About what I did. About who I was. But like you, the feelings are different now. Less sharp. More like old scars than fresh wounds. I'm glad he's happy. I'm glad you're happy. I'm trying to be happy too. It's working most days. That was 3 years ago. Now, at 38, I'm finishing my doctoral dissertation, Inherited Trauma and Sibling Rivalry in 21st Century Memoir. It's about us, of course, my sister and me, but also about everyone who's ever loved and hated a family member simultaneously. Everyone who's had to choose between forgiveness and self-preservation. My sister knows I'm writing it, knows she's in there, even if I've changed names and details. She's proud of me, said so in her last message. We see each other once a year now, always supervised by our parents or our spouses, always in public places. We're cordial, kind even, but not close. Not the way we were at 5 years old. Arms around each other, gap-toothed grins. Maybe we'll never be that again. Maybe some relationships, once broken, stay broken even after they're mended. They function, but differently. The cracks remain visible. Hope is 4 now. She asks about me sometimes. Why she doesn't see her aunt more often. My sister tells her the truth in age-appropriate terms. That we had a fight a long time ago. That we're still figuring out how to be sisters again. That it's okay for relationships to be complicated. I think that's the right approach. Felix and I are talking about having kids. It terrifies me. What if I carry the same poison my family did? What if I compare them to other children? What if I raise them to compete instead of support? But Felix reminds me I've spent years analyzing these patterns, years understanding how they form and how they fracture families. That awareness is protection. Maybe he's right. Last month, I went back to my hometown for Dad's birthday. My sister was there with Cameron and Hope. We ate cake. We sang. We took photos that looked normal to anyone who didn't know our history. Hope sat next to me at dinner, asked me about Portland, about my work, about my dog. Do you like being a teacher? She asked. I love it. Mommy says you're really smart, that you write important things. Your mommy's smart too. I know, but she says you're different kinds of smart, that you use words to fix things. I glanced at my sister. She was watching us, her expression unreadable. Something like that? I said to Hope. Can words fix everything? No, but they can help us understand why things broke, and sometimes understanding is enough. That's a weird answer. It is, isn't it? She grinned. She had my sister's eyes, but her smile was entirely her own. Later, as I was leaving, my sister walked me to my car. Thank you, she said, for being kind to her. To Hope. She's a good kid, that's all you. It's me trying not to be who I was. She leaned against the car. I know we're not close, that we might never be, but I'm grateful you gave me a chance, that you didn't write me off entirely. I wanted to. For a long time, I wanted to. What changed? I got tired of carrying the anger. It was heavy, and it wasn't hurting you anymore. Just me. So you forgave me? I don't know if I'd call it forgiveness. More like acceptance. Acceptance that you did terrible things, that they hurt me, and that you're trying to be better now. All of those things can be true simultaneously. That's very nuanced. I'm an academic. Nuance is my job. She smiled. I'm proud of you. I know I don't have the right to be, but I am. You have the right. You're my sister. That counts for something, even when it's complicated. Even when it's mostly terrible. Even then, I drove away watching her in the rearview mirror. She stood in the driveway until I turned the corner, stayed there like she was making sure I really left, or maybe making sure I'd really come. I don't know when I'll see her again. Maybe for Christmas. Maybe not for another year. Maybe one day we'll be able to be in the same room without measuring the distance between us. Or maybe this is as close as we'll ever get. This careful dance of presence and absence, of acknowledgement without intimacy. Either way, I've made my peace with it. Bryce sent me a message last week. His youngest just turned 2. They're thinking about moving back east. New opportunities, Jordan's family. He wanted to tell me before I heard through academic circles. I wished him well. Meant it. Our chapter ended years ago, but I'm grateful it existed. Grateful for what he taught me about literature and love and the courage it takes to walk away from things that hurt you. My sister asked if I still think about him. Asked if I blame her for how things ended. I told her the truth. I don't think about him much anymore. And when I do, it's without the sharp edge of loss. Just a gentle recognition that he was important once and isn't anymore. And that's okay. As for blame, I blamed her for years. But I've come to understand that relationships end for lots of reasons. She certainly accelerated our ending, made it messier and more painful than it needed to be. But even without her interference, Bryce and I might not have lasted. We wanted different things, moved at different speeds, had different tolerances for drama. She gave us an excuse to end. Maybe we would have found one anyway. Or maybe I'm just tired of being angry, tired of carrying the weight of what happened, tired of letting her actions define my entire 20s. I'm 38 now. Felix and I have been married for 8 years. I'm months away from my doctorate. I have work I love, a home that feels safe, a book club full of people who understand what it's like to survive family trauma. My life is good, really good. The kind of good that my sister once tried to destroy but couldn't quite reach. Because here's what I've learned. People can wound you deeply, can take things you love and twist them until you don't recognize them anymore, can poison your relationships and your trust and your sense of self, but they can't take your capacity to heal, to rebuild, to choose joy even when the world conspires toward pain. My sister taught me that, not intentionally, but through surviving her, I learned I was stronger than I thought, more resilient, more capable of starting over. So in a strange way, I'm grateful. Not for what she did, but for what I discovered I could do in spite of it. I told her this once during one of our annual meetings. She cried, said it was the kindest and cruelest thing I'd ever said to her, because it acknowledged her impact while also making it clear she hadn't won, hadn't destroyed me the way she'd intended. I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse, she admitted. Me neither. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think we'll ever be friends again? Real friends, not just cordial relatives who see each other once a year? I thought about it, really thought about it. I don't know. Maybe, but maybe not. And I think I'm okay with either outcome. How can you be okay with never being close to me again? Because I have other people. People who show up for me consistently. People I trust. People who've proven they want what's best for me even when it costs them something. You're not one of those people. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And I've accepted that. That's harsh. It's honest. You're always honest. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. She nodded. Didn't argue. We finished our coffee in silence. When we said goodbye, she didn't ask when we'd see each other again. Just said, "Take care," and walked away. I think we both knew something had shifted. Not toward closeness, but toward acceptance. Acceptance of what we were and weren't to each other. Of what we could and couldn't be. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that has to be enough. Because some wounds heal completely. Others leave scars. And some remain tender spots you learn to protect, to work around, to accommodate in your daily life. My relationship with my sister is the third kind. It exists. It functions on a basic level. But it will never be what it was before. Never be what it could have been if she hadn't chosen jealousy over sisterhood. And I'm learning to be okay with that. Felix asks me sometimes if I'm really okay with it. If I'm not just pretending for the sake of family peace. I tell him I'm working on it. Some days I wake up angry all over again. Angry at her for what she did. Angry at myself for letting her. Angry at Bryce for not fighting harder. Angry at my parents for creating the environment that made her that way. But most days I just wake up, make coffee, go to work, come home, live my life without the constant weight of what happened pressing on my chest. And that's the real victory. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just the ability to exist without being defined by her actions. Last week I finished my dissertation, defended it successfully. My committee praised the work, said it made a real contribution to the field. Mom and Dad came to Portland for the celebration. My sister sent flowers with a card. Congratulations, Dr. Sister. You did it. I always knew you would. I just wish I hadn't made it so much harder along the way. Proud of you, always. I put the flowers on my desk, the card in a drawer. I didn't respond, didn't feel like I needed to. Because here's the thing about healing. It's not linear. Some days you feel generous toward the people who hurt you. Other days you want nothing to do with them. Both responses are valid. Both are part of the process. I'm 38. I have a doctorate. A marriage, a career I love, a book club, a dog, a house with a view of Mount Hood, a life that is entirely, beautifully mine. My sister has her life too. Her husband, her daughter, her nonprofit job, her therapy, her medication, her attempts to be better than she was. We exist in parallel, occasionally intersecting, but mostly just moving forward on separate paths that once were joined. And you know what? That's okay. That's more than okay. That's enough. Because I survived her. I survived what she did to me, what she took from me, what she tried to destroy. I rebuilt. I healed. I moved on. And that's not just enough. That's everything.